Okay, I guess that's how you do it. All right, I guess. All right, so I'm here today with. Do you want to be called Georgie or Mugī? I don't know.
We can talk about that in the what it's like to be Kenyan, because I typically go by Georgie, but then Kenyans be making me feel like,
Yeah,
dang, you want to go by your English name, and it's like it's cute though.
that's true.
But yeah,
Like I for instance, I go by Ben like at work. It's gotten to a point where
yeah,
like they're like I was halfway through even like college when I transferred. They were like, "Who's Benard, yo?" Like I know Ben, but I don't know Benard. And like half of my friends who know me as Benard just always would walk by, and then just like it's like, "What's up, Nard?" And then like this one girl could not believe what she was hearing. It's like, "Ben, who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's one of my friends."
that's
Like,
me.
and I was like, she's like, "Okay, I'm just confused a little bit. That's all." And so I always find it like
Yeah,
that. It's because to me, I'm like, hey, nah, I'd just be whatever. But I guess
yeah.
I guess that's like a brief intro. But I guess I want to start off with like an icebreaker because like so I know that you have a podcast, but how did you even start with your own podcast too?
That is a great question. Sorry, I'm a trainer at work. So when people ask me questions, that's usually how I respond. And sometimes it takes a second to turn my work brain off. But I was telling my friends, I was at one of my friends' house and I was telling them, like, I just want to get paid. Like, my ideal career is to just talk about nothing, like no like news or like science hit, none of that, just to be running my mouth and people be like, wow, I like that. So they're like, oh, why don't you start a podcast? And I was like, that would make the most sense. So then I was like, I can do that. I think I'm funny enough. So I just recorded the first episode. I did a little Google search and that was it. I was like, Anchor, it's a good little app.
Yeah,
I'm gonna download it, and that's the history of it.
that's funny because like when I started podcasting, it's kind of like the similar way because I was like, I went to school with it for a communications degree, and then halfway through it, I was just like, I was thinking of it in the sense that it's like, all right, I can, as I get paid to like speak or do journalism for sports. That's what I always wanted to do. But then
Yeah.
halfway through it, I was thinking about it, and something was like, hmm, it's like, what if I could do like what like all these not influencers, because to me that's the extreme. And like I was like, I'm not that that overt with all this stuff. So I did that, and I think I tried out a lot before I even found out Anchor. I went through like three other ones, and
Um,
that trial and error was tough, yo. And then I realized how easy Anchor was. This is like an ad read without an ad read. Now I'm thinking about it.
Anchor hit me up. I am at Georgie. I don't even know what my thing is on Anchor. How terrible. But if they want to pay me, I'm available. They can hit my email. They got that.
Yo, I got so eager because they're like, you can record your own ads on there. And I was like, oh, look at me sounding like I was like trying to sound really like ahead of the time. But halfway through it, I was like, yeah, let me just take this off. I have too much dip on my chip today.
Literally, I haven't started. I tried to do my promo, like the little trailer for your podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so cringe. Like, I was like, I sound like someone's first grade teacher trying to get the class excited. And I was like, oh no, absolutely not. I actually deleted it off my thing,
Yes,
so you
same
can't
here.
find it anymore. It was just
Uh,
embarrassing, honestly.
I thought it was a really good idea. Then you like listen to it for a few more times, and it gets worser, or I don't know, worse and worse. Or I don't know. I'm not an English teacher, but you get the drift. But
Yeah.
and then and then especially because it's hard because I know like your podcast, you like it's just you, and when I listen
Yes.
to it, I always like I overthink how I made mine, and I had like a few takes, and I was like, nah, this isn't good. And then there was a good take within those bad takes, and I said, this is so much work if I went to go in and like cut it up. So I even thought about that, but like so for the people that don't know, what is your podcast primarily about? Like, what do you make it on?
That is a great question. So it's called Chit Chattin, a slightly random podcast because it's about everything. Any topic that I think about during the week, during the month, a conversation I have with my friends, I just create a whole entire episode out of that. So sometimes the audience is surprised. Most of the time I'm surprised because I really don't know what I'm going to talk about until literally like a day or two after I create the episode or before I create the episode.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite episode of yours is the stickwidditness. Like I'd never heard that phrase before, and so I was like, this sounds. I listened to it, and then halfway through it, I was thinking, I've never heard this term before, and I was like, stick-wittedness. It rolls off the tongue easily.
It does, because I don't have it. I was like, I really don't think I stick with it. I'm gonna try for this podcast, but some people have it off the bat. They can stick with anything. I tried tennis after 3 lessons. I was like, that's enough for me. I tried the violin. As soon as we got to high school, I was like, oh no, ma'am, I'm not doing this anymore.
Nah,
So.
I tried violin when I was like in elementary school, and I did it for 3 years, and I was all right at it. And then my mom was like, "You should keep doing it." I was like, "I'm not doing it anymore." She's like, and then fast forward a few years, she says she always sees like a few violinists on TV. It's like, see, this could have been you. I was like, no, it wouldn't. There's no.
Thanks for believing in me. No, my
like,
family was not like that.
really?
They were like, I mean, we support you, but that was not your thing. I said, you know what? Sometimes honesty is not the best policy.
Yeah, that's true. Cause like I remember even in high school, I didn't know which sport I could be in and whatnot. And so I thought cross country, and then I went, and then I ran, but I never got a physical because my parents would work on the weekend, and they were like, all right, all you need is a physical. You can be on the team. And I was like, yeah, I'll get that one day. And then I'll go to the practices, never show up to the meets because I was like, halfway through it, I was like, I value my Saturday mornings. I really do. And so I never committed to that. But I did track for a little bit, and then I got shin splints. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
I did cross country. I did cross country for 2 years, maybe 3 years. 2 years sounds good. So, but yeah, no, I got hit by a dog, and that was the end of my cross country career. It was embarrassing. And one of my pediatrician was one of the parents of like one of the other girls on the cross country team. So when I went to go see him, because like my knee was literally not working, he was like, oh my gosh, it was you, and started laughing. I was like, don't spare my feelings.
It's like, aren't you supposed to be tending to me right here now? So,
literally, sir, I am on crutches. Maybe this is not the time to be making jokes.
Yeah. And yeah. I even think about that because I remember what did it for me with cross country was like one day, because me and you went to high school together, and we used to have these practice rounds where they would like drop you in a bus and you would have to run back, or the boys did. And so they sent us to there's this park called Jones Bridge, and then like they dropped us in there, and then like it was near Barnwell. They're like, all right, you're gonna make it back to school. And I was like, who's gonna make it back to where? Because they're like, we're doing this on Friday or Thursday or whatever. And I was like, yeah, y'all are doing it on Thursday. I won't be there. I'm not running in the middle of the summer, like for morale. I'm not doing that. And I love running. That's the thing. And I used to run. Oh no. But I was like, never that. And so yeah.
I think I went to 2 summer practices. And that's because my mom woke me up. Like all the other days, I was like, I'm not gonna be there. I'm so sorry.
Nah, that's one too many because I would just drive on the weekends, and they would go along the Chattahoochee River, and I'll just see them like sweating and like basically dry heaving. I was like, man, the pool's really nice over here.
Yes. Literally, no one is trying to do that in the middle of the summer. No.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. But like, I know what you mentioned. Like, even seeing on the camera how like your mom walked by, that was like the most.
Oh, this is my roommate.
Oh, roommate.
Yes.
Because like you even looked up, I thought you said mom, and I was like, yeah, this is the most Kenyan situation ever.
Literally. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm downstairs. So
Oh yeah, so it's like the intersection of where everything happens.
yes. And we're moving. So like I had a desk in my room. And I was like, oh my goodness, I want to be a little professional with my little desk. And as you can see, that did not happen.
That's true. Life is like that. 'Cause literally, right now, I have like a FedEx package in order to keep my computer stable because it was sliding. Because I don't want to I don't want to use my desk where there's like no natural lighting. So, but yeah.
That's fair.
Oh yeah, one of the things I want to point out, like the basis of this episode was like, you know, growing up as, I guess since me and you are both Kenyan and Kikuyu to be specific, like
Right.
I wanted to like document, or not document, but talk about how how your experience was like. Did you grow up here or you grew up there?
We moved here when I was just about to turn 7. So I always say when I was 7.
Oh, same.
But
I was 6.
right. Yeah, it was like March, and then my birthday was in April. So I grew up. I can remember a little bit about living there, but I'm 24. So at this point, most of my life has been in the States.
Yeah, because like for me, I grew up. I don't know. I can remember. I have a really strong memory, so I remember even growing up when I was little, and uh, I remember wearing uniforms and like walking to school, and that was something. Because my mom used to walk me when I was a kid. It was like about like a mile walk, and as kids, it's wild to think like if you were to say this out loud in America, like you have pre-K kids like walking a mile by themselves and thinking like, yeah, that's always a good idea. Like DFAX would call you or whatever.
Literally.
And so uh my mom would walk me, and then when I turned 5, like halfway through like kindergarten, or they don't even call it kindergarten at the time. They used to call it, there was nursery like nursery school, baby class, nursery school, and then first grade or
Right.
standard 1. That's what they used to call
Yeah.
it. And so
Mhm.
I would walk to school, and then my mom would walk me. She's like, yeah, so eventually you're gonna have to do this by yourself. And I was like, what? And then I would walk halfway through, and then she would be like, all right, I'll be near you, and then slowly go back home. So I would actually get into a habit of walking about,
Oh.
and then like I would just be crying halfway there and be like, I'm not going to school today.
You're like, you know what? If it's up to me, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah, because like where we lived, there was this big boarding school, and then like there was like a church in between, and then my mom worked at the big boarding school as like kind of like a social worker counselor in there, and then so we lived off campus, and then the school was like you had to go through like if you go to like a small town, and then it's at the edge of town, it's like a mile, but it was small
Yeah.
enough where you can like do it, and everyone was small enough where they knew you. But I used to hate that walk because halfway through it, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can go home. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about it. Because you said you remember a little bit, but you don't. But
Yeah.
do you remember like your first experience in elementary school for the first time?
I don't. Here or there? I remember here when I
Here,
came
here,
here.
here.
Oh, I remember here because okay, we came in like March, so you know the school semester ends in May, right?
Yeah.
So but in Kenya, I think it starts in
January,
January.
yes.
Right. So I was in second grade according to Kenyan standards, but I was in first grade according to American standards. I think those grades are right. I
Yeah,
don't
you're
know.
right.
So I was like, excuse me, ma'am, I am not a first grader. I'm grown. I've already done first grade. But she wasn't trying to listen to me. And I feel like my mom wasn't advocating on my behalf, but whatever. So I remember going to school for like 3 weeks, and then like that was over. I remember PE was shocking. I was like, why are we just running around like this inside? Like we didn't go outside, and that was shocking to me because I feel like in Kenya we were always outside for
Yeah.
recess. So I was like, that's crazy. And then I remember, I don't know if my parents are gonna watch this, but I remember we had a little prayer before we all went to school for the first time. It was like, the prayer was so, it wasn't funny. It was very sweet of our parents to pray over us. But I just remember my parents like throwing like random words that they wanted us to remember in the prayer. So like, an eraser is an eraser, not a rubber. So like they didn't want my brother to like go to school and ask for a rubber. And they're like, and that they can remember this and that. And I was like, this is such a specific, I guess you gotta ask for the things you want specifically, because it was just really funny.
Yeah, mine was different because I remember first grade, and I was in the same way. So I was in first grade when I was in Kenya. Or actually, I was about to start second grade because how the school day used to work used to be you would get there at 7 and you would leave at 1. There was like a lunch break at 11. So it was just kind of like, there was no, I didn't, this concept, since my brother was in kindergarten, and this concept of nap time that they had was so wild to me because I was like, you mean to tell me that y'all just sleep for like the next 30 minutes in class? Because
Literally.
because I remember on Fridays we used to, from where our school was, it was on a hill, so we had to go down a little bit of a hill. It wasn't too big of a hill where it was like you couldn't give little kids work to do, but it was little kid level where you can do that. So we had to like clean, because there used to be little schoolhouses that like it would like have dust and everything. It wasn't like cement like floors and everything like that. And so you had to like clean it because of all the dust caught it, and you didn't want to have it accumulate. So every single Friday we had to go down, get some buckets, and then walk back up and then wash inside. But I came to America and they had like tiles, and I was like, what is this situation y'all got going on over here?
No one prepared me for this.
Yeah, and so at least you had the heads up of like what words were to you, because I barely spoke a lick of English, and I went straight to ESOL. But the few words I could say was cannot or whatever, and so I would start conversations, and they're like, "All right, can you explain to me this?" And I could understand what contractions were. So even when we were being taught, I was like, "Your name is." It's like, you can't do this. I was like, you cannot do this. You can't do this. It couldn't get into my mind, and yeah, they're like, yeah, you're gonna need to go to ESOL. You need to do this. And yeah, I spent like about the first 3 years I was like in summer school, and to me I was like, well, this is just a regular schedule. I was like, what?
That's true.
Yeah, because I was like, well, because there's a separate, this is the thing, there was a separate bus for all the kids who are in ESOL. And living in Atlanta, they're like, yeah, we're gonna throw you to the wolves right quick. We're gonna keep you all over here for a little bit for your own safety.
Separate you.
Yeah, and so and then like eventually when I got older and they had like the regular buses, because they used to have like small buses, like small like little daycare buses for us to go to. They're like, all right, we're gonna coddle you a little bit. And then I got a big bus. I was like, what is this thing?
Oh my goodness. I lived in Walton Centennial.
Yeah.
Walton Centennial. So we didn't have a bus for elementary school or high school. So we used to have to make a little walk. Now granted, if anyone were to see the map, they'd be like, oh, that makes sense because it's right there.
Yeah.
But I was like, all my little friends are getting on the bus. I didn't ride a bus until middle school. I was like, this is so discriminatory.
Yeah, I lived in Martin's Landing, and like my elementary school was right there. And so I think from first through third grade I always took the bus, and then like from fourth to fifth the school was right there. And so I just cross the street, and I had to wait on the cross guard to get there. So the cross guard was like eating their breakfast, like I'm working and then so I was like, all right, okay. And then I was like, there's no cars. It's like, you guys gonna have to wait for me. We're like, okay. I'm in fifth grade.
Yeah. We didn't even have a cross guard. Now granted, we didn't cross the street. We didn't have nothing. They was just like, all right, well, good luck. Now I have an older sister, so she used to walk me to school as she went to Centennial. But it's like when we're coming home from school, they used to walk us to the bottom of the hill,
Yeah.
and then they'd be like, all right, good luck. And then you just have to walk the rest of the way yourself.
Yes. And so that was the thing. And even like then, it's crazy now I'm thinking about it of like how stuff now would not be the same in this day and age of like the for example when I was a kid just walking all those distances to school in Kenya, that would, because I went back a few years ago and it was like around 6 a.m. in the morning and we're like driving to go out to the country and it's during the work week and so all the kids are walking on the side of the road. I'm like, that kid can look more like than five. It's like, what are they doing up this early? And so they're all wearing uniforms and everything and I was thinking to myself, man, this would never be happening anywhere else.
Literally would not be happening.
Yeah. And so like that's the other thing. Like, did you have an adjustment when it came to even the language speaking? Because you mentioned like even like the terms that your parents had known you. Like, did you have to do ESOL or anything?
I didn't, but I feel like I think I was just so young that I was easily moldable. That Kenyan accent went out the window so quickly, like so quickly. I remember being like having a conversation with this girl in the hallway, and Kenyans say ears instead
Uh-huh.
of years.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like trying to explain to her what I'm trying to say. And she's like, ears. And kids are like so dramatic. So it's
Uh-huh.
like there was no grace in that interaction. So she's like, ear, that's not how you say that. And I was like, oh my goodness. So then I was like, let me not talk for a little bit to see how these people are talking to see if I can get on the same wavelength. But it took a while because I remember like we were in English class, let's just say English worst subject ever. Doesn't matter. So
Fair
I was
enough.
like, she was like, what punctuation mark are we putting at the end of the sentence? I was like, a full stop. Now I
Yes.
feel like from context, as a teacher, you can know what I mean. And she literally made us sit there for like 5 minutes to try to figure out what that was. And I was like, okay, like I had it right. If this was a written exam, I would have gotten 100. But now you just want to put me on blast in front of these other little kids. They're gonna make fun of me. So yeah, it was definitely an adjustment. I think words and like, especially since in Kenya we speak British English, it was like
Yes.
things were not matching up. So it was just like, dang. Y'all think I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm smart, I promise. It was hard to like get into the swing of things.
Yeah, that's the thing because like for me, when I would see a truck, I would say lorry, like a lorry.
Right?
And then like people was like, "What are you talking about, lorry?" He's like, "Oh, there's no lorry around here." I was like, "That thing right there. You mean a truck?" He's like, "No,
No.
that's a pickup truck. This is
Which
a
makes more
lorry."
sense.
Yeah. And then so they're like, "What?" And then so there's certain words, even phrases. When I was growing up, I was like, "This doesn't make sense to me." Like I remember this is when I realized that like my American English had gotten too elitist when I got over my Kenyan accent. Was like when I would see the words spelled with especially going in Kenya, they have like the British English. And so when I would see words like flavor, color, I was like, why is there an extra U here? Like,
Like you're spelling this wrong.
yeah. And my mom would be like, even it's funny that you mentioned even like the Kenyan words. For example, like if you say recognize, you could say recognize. And then the funniest thing is when you would hear them say recognize, it's like recognize. And you're just like, this just sounds weird to me.
It sounds weird. And it's just like, and then I just became a part of the problem because we went to Kenyan church. And I was like unbelievably weak. And it was like, these are my people. I should not be laughing at them, but I just could not. I think I was just so shocked because like you go to American school and you like are just so familiar with the way Americans say things. So oh my goodness, I had to just take a second to breathe. He was like on the jumbo jet, and I was like,
Yes.
a plane? And he was like, a diggity. And I was like, he
A
can't be saying diggity
donkey?
like that. Like, right. He was talking about getting college degrees. I was like, I I just had a moment of weak. Like I was inconsolably weak. I had to just walk
no,
out and collect myself.
that used to kill me, especially if it was like certain phrases you would hear. Because when you're going to school and it's all in English, like to me, when I try to speak Kikuyu, I like my parents have a kick at it. They feel like how I feel about them with English. Then they're like, because I would translate it directly how it is in English. And they're like, it's like this is even funny. It's like that doesn't make any sense. And it's just like we appreciate the effort though. It's like the Southern bless your heart though, you know? I'm
Literally.
like, all right, I should never try, I guess. And then, but it's funny that you mentioned that because, like, even when it comes to, I would say, I don't know, when I go to like coffee shops, that always kills me, especially because like you have like sweet tea, and we used to call it trugi, like true tea, and then you just go and see people now, like since whatever shy is like now mainstream. Oh, it just hurts my ears every single time when I go to a coffee shop. And I'll just like, I'll be in the middle of like typing something up, and then halfway through it, I just hear somebody say, "Can I have like a mocha chai?" I'm like, oh, this is
Literally. My favorite is a chai tea latte. I'm
yes.
like,
You mean a TT latte?
a tea latte? Come on. Come on.
And then
Yeah, no,
like,
it's crazy.
yeah, I gave my friend a hard time, and he was like, "Oh, so wait, let me defer my expertise to him." He's like, "I was like, it's called chai," and then like,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "No, it's chai," and I was like, "Okay, all right."
Right. You're wrong, but that's okay.
Yes. And then even then, it's funny because even certain words, it's like vice versa how it's interchangeable, but even like the experience of it, it's funny now having that accent, American accent, and like going back and forth with it, because when I was growing up, there'll be times where on the phone, my parents were like, can you do this? Like, please.
Literally. Yeah. Sometimes my mom will be like, just my mom speaks predominantly in English, but I think sometimes because we're in the South, it's just
Mhm.
like it's not,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not,
I
it's like
have
you both have accents. So it's just like I can help. I can
not
help you both.
so like when I was younger, I lived like South Atlanta, then the suburbs, and then we'd go to church and like a little bit outside of Atlanta and like Jonesboro and whatnot. For whatever reason, that was what we chose. But hey, I didn't have a choice at 8 years old. But uh, so there was like different pockets of people that you'd be exposed to by their accent. And one thing that I even took away was I remember my dad worked at the airport. And we lived in the middle of College Park, and he worked at the airport, which was like 5 minutes away. And uh, he used to get, when he first moved here, he used to get a kick out of like just like the hood accent that he would hear, the Atlanta accent, like, you know what I'm talking about. And then like he used to be like, it's like, I do not understand who he's talking to, or is it me? It's like, he's like, you feel me? And then he would just like try to impersonate him with an African accent. He's like, yeah, y'all, yeah, I don't know who's the ye and who's the y'all in this situation. And I'll get a kick out of it. Um and then you would go back, and then we would go to like the church, and it was like a lot of, there was like, it was diverse, but there was like a lot of like southern Georgia guys who would just come up there, and their southern accent was so tough. And me and my brother used to get a kick out of it when they would pray. I was like, the y'all's like, thank you, Lord Jesus, for everything. And we're like, what experience is like, we used to be like, this is the coolest thing ever. We've never heard this before.
Literally. Because it's just so new. Everything is so new.
Yeah, because I was like, it's when you're little, when you don't understand exactly what's going on, but you're like, this is, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm all for it for now. Like, and it's
Literally.
the same thing in that. But even then, like, it's funny because of how now, even in how I speak English, people might think I have an accent for whatever. They might think, oh, I don't even think that everybody who thinks they don't have an accent has an accent, but they don't ever want to admit it. Like for me, I don't think I have an accent in English, but I think I was going to a hardware store and I caught myself saying y'all way too many times, and I was like, this is weird. I've
No, I give
become
up that fight.
yeah.
I y'all people to death now. I'm just like, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah,
Join them.
and that's the thing. Like I think for me, it's like even with that experience, it's crazy because now, I always think about even like growing up of how many places that I was exposed to personally, and just I even just think about those like TikTok trends where the guys are like will just bring up certain things that are so niche to like whether it be like whatever culture it is, and then you're like, I hate how all of us relate to this experience. Whether it be like there's this one guy who was talking about like how what's it like living in a African household, and then they'll have like the parents watching a YouTube video, and like as a person who loves like how sound is, it always hurts my ears when I hear like the booming feedback mic, and I'm like,
Literally.
oh no, I can't do this.
Literally. Yeah, no, that really is. I think it's amazing though, because like I'm probably the most Kenyan person someone will meet in America. But when I go back to Kenya, they're like, "You're American." And I'm like, "No, I promise. Like, what of you?"
Yeah, my uncle gives me a hard time. He's like, so you became. He's like, where were you born? I was like, Kenya. He's like, no, you weren't. And he's like, what do you mean? I was born. He's like, yeah, but no, you've lived there longer than here. I was like, technically, I'm right, aren't I? He's like, yeah, but no. And then, because usually when I go to Kenya, I can't for the life of me speak Swahili fluent. Like I can kind of understand it, and halfway through it, I would always go to my parents. I'm like, and then they'll be like, so they were like, a guy would walk by. He's like, so what do you want today? And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, you gotta ask her, you know. It's like Nina Kula, and I was like, I don't know, maybe. I was like, he's like, he doesn't speak Kidogo or anything. I was like, a little bit, I guess. It's like, I probably know more Spanish than I know Swahili to save my life, which is a bad indictment on my part. But I mean, when it comes to Kikuyu, I'm like pretty fluent in that. But I always feel myself like, because when I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of Kenyan kids around me. Like when I got older,
Yeah.
and so I would just basically speak it to my parents. And so when I go to like social gatherings, a lot of it's funny. A lot of like Kenyan parents just assume that the kids don't know Kikuyu, so they're just like walk up and they just start speaking English. It's like, so what grade are you in right now? And I was like, it's like, then I grade kid. Like, she speak Kikuyu? Oh, thank you so much. I'm like, do I get a medal for this? They're like,
Yes, you should. I can't speak a lick. A
it's
lick. Can't speak nothing.
it's funny because my grandma gets like, she loves it, and it's funny, my mom dies laughing because we'll have a whole entire conversation of me and my my good Kikuyu that's fragmenting, and she'll be like, y'all be having like some of the most, not weird, but the most interesting conversations. And my grandma loves it. I love it, but it's one of those things. To me, it's funny to see it in like in pop culture, as like even Kenyan um, media and stuff like that become mainstream.
Yeah.
Especially like I remember my friend showed me Star Wars, and then halfway through it, they had Kikuyu in a little bit in one of the scenes, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, no way. And then he played it. He's like, ain't this what you speak? I was like, how do you know what I speak? He's like, you've been around. I was like, I've known you for years. I could probably pick up a few things. I know what it sounds like.
Oh.
And so when I was like, and then when I went back and listened to it, I was like, I was kind of taken aback because I turned on the captions and it said alien language. I was like, oh, that hit that hit here, that hit really close to home, yo. Like, and so, but I guess that's recognition, I guess.
Right. I was watching Love Island
Yeah.
and one of the girls was Kenyan. Well, last year one of the girls was Congolese, but she grew up a little bit in Kenya, but this year, like, the girl was Kenyan. And they have like this portion where your parents come to like say hi on like Zoom or whatever, because like you've been on the island for like mad long. So when her mom came on, she was like, Waboy, oka haha. And I was like, it was really nice. I was like, wow. And her parents were like really nice and accepting of the fact that she's on Love Island. I was like, so I basically could do it.
Yeah. And so
that
like,
was the moral of the story.
it's funny because like even in like Kenyan gatherings when I would get a chance to go, like a lot of them will not think, like, to what I said earlier, would not think that you understand a few things, and then I'll just turn it on. I'll be like, yeah, so how are you guys doing today? Doing very good. And then they're like, oh, really? It's like, is that all you know? I was like, do you know more? I'm like, I mean, you get the premium, all right. I mean, I'll get you the premium content right quick. And so they get a kick out of it. They're like, they go to my parents, like, it's like, does he know any other kids around here? It's like, I don't think so. We don't come, we've never visited before. They're like, but how is it possible? They can't figure, like, huh, I don't know how this works. And so yeah, it takes them aback. And so that's the thing. But like for you, even with that, like balancing, like even with your Kenyan identity, how has that been like navigating, I guess, throughout your American experience though?
It's been tough. Honestly, it's been tough. And I feel like, you know how like everyone now is on this little wave where they're like, oh my goodness, make sure they say your name right and demand blah, blah, blah. Don't go by your American name, da, 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 da. I feel like, okay, that is super great. And I identify with that. I definitely do. But when I was growing up, that wasn't there. That wasn't there. So it's like, do people mispronounce my name? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. Do I decide to go by Georgie because, sorry.
You could.
It was so shocking because what's it called? My phone was ringing in my ears and I was like, this is too loud. I'm sorry. But they, growing up, that wasn't it. Like you were just coming, you were assimilating to the culture, you were trying to survive elementary, middle, high school. Like there was no big campaign for being African and African being accepted, blah, blah, blah. So I feel like people now are like, oh, why do you go by Georgie? And I'm like, I feel like it isn't enough to say that I like it. So because I like it. And I've never been Georgie before. So like when I went to, obviously you didn't know me as Georgie in high school. Yeah. But when I went to college, first of all, my whole life was a lie. Georgie is my first name. So on all your legal documents, it has to say Georgie. Right. So I was like, when I went to get my driver's license, it said Georgie. And then when I was applying to college, they were like, what does your driver's license say? I was like, oh, but I've never gone by that. And they were like, oh, well, that's good for you, but your school records got to match your driver's license and your passport. So I was like, oh my God, I really am, like, I am Georgie. So when I went to college, I was like, I can reinvent myself. Now, of course, that's a bit dramatic because most of the stuff is still pretty much the same. Yeah. But it was just like, I have the opportunity to go by this name that I've never gone by before. And I feel like it fits me. It's cute. It's quirky, whatever. So I like Georgie. Now, will my family call me Georgie? Absolutely not. They won't. And I wouldn't want them to because that's not who they've known growing up. But it's like, even some of my close friends, it's like, Georgie's just not who you are to me. And that's fine, but like, I like Georgie. So I feel like sometimes people are like, oh, maybe she's ashamed or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not ashamed. I have I don't even have it on. I was gonna say, I have my Kenyan bracelet on, but I haven't put on my jewelry. Yeah.
That's a good
when I put on my jewelry, it'll be there. I have Kenya tattooed on my ankle. Like, what more do you want from me? I go back every 2 years. Like, I talk to my Kenyan family. Like, I'm Kenyan. And I feel like that experience is going to look different for everyone. Yeah. Now, I am one of the Kenyans that, Swahili, I can understand it. Will I respond to you in English? Absolutely. Kikuyu, I can somewhat understand it. The important parts. will I respond to you in English? Absolutely. But it's just like, I think people try to take away because you grew up in the States, blah, 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 you're not really Kenyan. And it's like, first of all, I was a child. Did I have a choice of where I was growing up? No. Second, I feel like you can't take that away from me. That's what I identify as. I'm Kenyan. So I think it's hard to balance it. But I don't know, at this point, I'm old. It's just like, you can't tell me who I am and who I'm not. Like, I'm comfortable being a Kenyan who barely speaks Swahili. I do understand it though, because I took it for 2 years in college, 3 years in college.
Oh, you're lucky. I never got that chance.
Yeah, so it's just, that's why you gotta go to HBCU. But I'm not gonna go on that rant today. But yeah, I think it's tough to balance because sometimes people are just like, you're not this and you're not that. And I'm like, but who are you to me? Even if you're my family. But you can't tell me. You can't tell me
That's
otherwise.
true. Like, for example, even with like, it's funny because like when we went to high school together, what killed me all the time is that I knew of you, but then like, because I saw the name, I was like, that's a Kikuyu name, but hey, and I didn't think much of it, right? And then like, I was like, I would see you, we had like friends that knew each other. And since you were in my brother's grade, my brother used to be like, yeah, there's a girl named, they call her Mugī, but I know that's wrong. But I don't know what it, and then so I was like, and then we came home and we told my mom, because then my mom and your mom ended up like talking for a little bit, and then halfway through it, she's like, oh, you mean Mogore Moge? And then I was like, oh, that's how it is? I was like, yeah. It's like,
different.
And then she's like, I was like, what do they call her at school? I was like, they call her Mugī, like, or so.
And then, now it like makes my ears cringe, like, ew.
And so like, even when you were talking, I was thinking about the many instances somebody has introduced you as Mugī, and then I was like, oh, this is not landing. I was like, hey, but you know, that's my name. My name is Paul, and that's between y'all, and so y'all can get that one. But I had like a similar thing too, because for example, like when I was little, because when you're like little kid and when you're at home, like especially for us, like we go by Kenyan names. So like my middle name is Duo. And so my parents always call me that, any social interaction. So when I went to elementary school for the first time, American elementary school, they're like, Benard Karagu, is he in here? I'm like, who's that guy? Like, I understand it's like y'all butchered the last name. I could kind of tell. It's like, so there's no Benard Karagu in here. It's like, oh, you mean Duo? It's like, doesn't. No, there it is. So which one do you prefer? I was like, they call me Duo, but I was like, how do 4 letters trip you up that much? Like, it used to kill me because even fast forward, like, since my name is Benard and it's spelled Benard, and people always end up putting an extra R before the N. And I remember in 4th grade when I first moved to like Roswell, my teacher was like, so your name's Benard? I was like, yes, that's Benard. She's like, oh, are you sure there's not an R in there? I was like, I know for sure there's no R.
I would know.
She's like, so Barnad? I was like, where did you hear the, in my head, I was like, politely, respectfully, I was just trying to say, like, where did you see the extra A? This is not Wheel of Fortune. It's like, I would like to bow an extra vowel. And then halfway through it, she was like, all right. And then she spelt it wrong. And it had like, she had like a vis-a-vis. You know, those things are so hard to get off. So I was like, I would just slowly just cover. I was so petty. I would cover my books where the R was, and then just be BE, and then Nard would be on the back end. And so similar to you, when I went to college, like, so I think like all through high school, all through middle school, people knew Benard, right? And then like even in roll, it used to be funny for me because they'd be like Benard. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to switch this up a little bit. And then halfway through, like, I think junior year, senior year, I used to go by Ben because I was like, I'm not trying to get my name butchered today. And it's funny because I used to ask my mom, I was like, why did y'all think this is a good idea? He's like, oh yeah, I mean,
why did you do this to me?
He's like, well, you're named after your granddad. And so when I went to go visit him, I was like, do you use Benard? He's like, no, I don't use it, man. I was like, what? He's like, I barely use it unless I have to go file taxes. He's like, but don't you, that's your name, right? Do you like it? I was like, like is a strong word. But then he's like, I mean, I mean, it's up to you. It's like you're still duo to me. And then I was like, all right. He's like, you can do whatever. And I was like, okay. And so, when I went to high school, like towards the latter part of high school, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just name my name Ben, because I was like, I'm not getting to this. And so,
Right.
so people were like, so I'm just gonna. So one of my friends, because they used to watch The Office, that's like when The Office crave was like, when you're eking into latter part of high school, going into college, and then like there's Andy Bernard on there, and he used to spell his name Bernard, and uh, and so my friend used to be like, all right, so we're gonna call you Nard. I was like, okay. And then I was like, why? He's like, I was watching The Office, and there's a guy on there, and they call him the Nard Dog. So I just realized that's pretty close to yours. I was like, all right, no saying whatsoever, like no. So he was like that, and then it caught on. And then so like a few of my friends used to call me Nard, and then I think they still do. But I was like, and that's the thing. Like for me, even at work, I'm always have it as Ben Carago. And even yesterday we were at a work meeting, and the lady was like, I want to make sure I pronounce everybody's name right. I see Ben. Can you help me out with this other part? I was like, it's Carago. I was like, oh, I like that role. Can you do it one more time? I was like, oh boy. It felt like one of those like lineups where they bring the guy up. Can we see number 6 one more time?
Literally.
But yeah, and so halfway through it, I was like, all right. I used to say, my uncle gave me this advice. He was like, all right, when you come, because I went to his job, and he used to be like this. It's like, you know me as your uncle. Here they know me as Kamau, and that's all they know me as. All right, not no uncle, no nothing. That's all they know me. And I used to have it because he used to like live in Southside Atlanta. And like you just have all these hood dudes coming up, and they're like, "Hey man, hey come on, man, I need some time, man. Can you give me that? I know you got some good times right there." And then I was like, it's amazing how how that works. And so he'll get them hooked up. And he used to tell me, he's like, this, whatever you are, like whatever you're still you, just like whatever setting you're in, just you use whatever name that you feel comfortable using. You're still you at the end of the day. And so that's how I did it, like especially all through college I went by Ben. And it's not just to discard the other like nationality or whatever and be like, oh, that's a good English sounding name. That's it's not, I don't think of it that deeply, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, when I'm at home, my parents know me as Thuo, and they only call me Benard just to tease me. Like they were just like, it's like, oh, they're calling you Bernard. It's not funny, Bernard. But like they just have a whale of a time with it. And so I never think of it. And I guess it's like I think there's like a Shakespeare quote. I might butcher it. I don't even want to try, but basically it's like if the gist of it is overly like it's like it's whatever, like there's the best sound. I'm already butchering. The best sound to a human's ears is their own name. And so it might have been him. I hope it's him. But but hey, we
It
don't
is for the purpose of this conversation.
yeah. And so it's the same way, and that's what I subscribe to. Is like, hey man, you know me as these different parts. Like, there's different parts of a person or facets to a person. And so that's how I think of it. And I don't know, like to me it's cool to see people like diving to that side of thing of having like, yo, you need to have that rigid, strong name that is synonymous with Africa. And like, I'm like, I mean, that's cool. I mean, to me, it's like, I really love learning about Kenyan history and stuff like that. And like learning. And so like one of my grad projects was interviewing my grandma and like learning how she lived. Cause I was like, yeah, I mean, I can speak the language. I can eat the food. I can do all these things that are Kenya, but I want to know like what's it like living like that every single
Yeah.
day. And so like I think to me it looks like you said, it looks different from across the board, even if I speak fluent Kikuyu and I don't understand a lick the Swahili. And it looks differently because like you said earlier, as kids we never had a choice of like picking where we're going to be living. And so I mean it's awesome to live in America, and it's a really great unique experience to feel like you're going back and forth in different parts of yourself. But I always find it weird when people are just like, you can only be this one thing and this one person by this one name and this facet. It's like, and there's nicknames and there's all these different things like that doesn't change who you are as a person. And you know, like if you know who you are internally, I think that speaks volumes, like of like, not to sound cliche, but like even like of what your character is and whatnot, and all those good, I don't know, Hulk Hogan quotes you can think of that in there.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree wholeheartedly. It's just like, and sometimes I feel like there's nothing wrong if you do want to take the easy way out. If I do want to just be called Georgie because it's easier, I don't have to explain to you
yeah,
how the different syllables in Kikuyu translate differently. I feel like everyone also doesn't deserve, but that's the best word I can do. Everyone doesn't deserve to know the intricacies of my name and what it means and that I'm a Kikuyu. Like it doesn't, not everyone, some people are my work colleagues and Georgie is all they need to know about me. Some
yeah,
people, I'm meeting you once, that's all you need to know about me. If you know me for real, like my friends, my family, you know me, you know the different names, what they mean, blah blah, that's one thing. So I feel like even for me, it's a way to differentiate who you
yeah,
are
yeah,
in my life. Because if you really know me for real, you'll know I'm named after my grandma, because in Kikuyu culture,
yeah,
the second girl is named for the mom's side. But
yeah,
like, if I'm in a work meeting, this man does not care what I have to say about my show. Like he does not care. He doesn't
yeah.
care.
And that's,
So I'm
and that,
not trying to do too much.
I feel that too, because like I think I used to jokingly say it, but like I subscribe to the J. Cole school of thought of every joke has some truth in it. So like basically of like I used to say like, you know, Ben is what like people like at class or at school know me as, and then Nard is what other people know me as, and some people who knew me before know me as Benard. And it's not because like I dislike my name or anything like that. It's like, I mean, I'm trying to put my own spin on how I never chose my name off rip, so I can change it, yes, but like that's too much work and I gotta go. But it's even worse than it's probably a degree. It's probably the extreme of like, you know, when you're trying to get people's phone numbers when you get a new phone. It's like imagine that on like a global level, like trying to get everyone.
Literally.
It's like, oh no, you knew me as Ben, but here's Daniel or some other different name, whatever you can think of, and you got to tell all those people to forget that name and just delete it out. But it's the same way, because even now that you kind of touched on it, but I always find it really cool, especially like researching of like Kenyan history of like how people get their names and stuff. Like, and that's always like, it always intrigued me because you mentioned it, how you got your name from your grandma and I got my name from my granddad. And it's like, I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh, that's, so I don't get a saying this or no nothing. And so
Mm-mm.
I know, like for me, I always like find it funny because I remember one time we were at crew and the pastor was trying to make a point of like, I doubt that a lot of us actually know 5 generations deep of where we're at, like about who lived. And I was like, all right, hold my drink right quick. And he's like, how many of us know our grandparents? Everybody's like, yeah, I think I know my grandparents. Like, how many know their great grandparents' names? It's like, I still hold my hand up. They're 2 times great. 3 times. It felt like it was like an auction. It's like 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6. And then he's like, all right, I'll bite. So how does it go? I was like, it's my name, then my dad's name, my name, then my dad's name. Because yeah, it says like
Yes.
my dad, my granddad, and myself. And I think my great granddad were all firstborn in their family. So I was like, oh, that's a lot easier.
That's easy.
Yeah. And then
Easy.
that's always easy when I was explaining to my friends. I'm like, they're like, so how did you guys get your names? And I was like, well, actually, it's like there's a system that's done. And then like I know it gets complicated as soon as there's like one either there's one, if there's a lot of girls in your family or a lot of guys in your family, you gotta
Yeah.
like, all right, I don't have no sisters or y'all, so
Right.
I can get creative. And so it's cool because I think it's different because like of how even American in general of how people have their names. Like it's really cool to have like what Kenyans have in Kikuyu, especially in Kikuyu culture, because I think people just think Kenya or even in any country is like just one thing, and they don't
Yeah.
realize it's like, oh, there's specificity and everything. Oh, that's a good word.
Oh,
Of
come on
everything.
now.
It's Saturday. This is my off day, and so yeah, and so it's like that. And then I mean, it's really cool to see that part, and yeah, I, I don't know. I think that's one takeaway that I always find that's really interesting of like how other people get their names and how that is a part of who they are and stuff like that. So it's really really cool to see that. And so yeah,
I definitely agree. I
yeah,
definitely agree.
yeah. I'd say, do you have? I was gonna like transition with this of even with your podcast as we're wrapping up. Um, what is like one thing that you've loved doing about it? Like even with that experience of just even just talking just sharing little tidbits of life with people.
I think sometimes like I don't want to say I'm an overthinker, but sometimes I live inside my head. So sometimes it's good to say things out loud, and then other people will be like, "Oh yeah, I was listening." Okay, now those other people are my friends because I have like 7 people that listen to my podcast, but they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, when you were talking about blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Oh my, I don't know why in my head I think I'm the only human in life ever who's ever thought this one thing," and that's just simply never the case. So it's just nice to see that other people are having similar thought processes, or if they think differently. Like if they're like, I never thought about it that way. I usually think blah, blah, blah. So I think just being able to share my thoughts and people like being able to either agree or like have a new perspective, or they're able to give me a new perspective. I think that's the best part. And so I don't listen to my podcast all the way through because after a while it's like, she sounds kind of crazy. But when I do listen to like the beginning or like the end, I'm like, it's not that bad. Like sometimes you're just so scared that people are gonna judge you, or like you're gonna sound crazy. But then you listen to it and you're like, wow, I I didn't sound crazy. I sounded like a regular human woman.
That's
So
true.
it's been a good experience.
Yeah, I could say the same thing, even like overthinking that part, because I find myself like sometimes combating with that in the sense that making stuff and feel like, oh shoot, maybe this needs to be this before it goes out, or not even just letting that be part of, oh, you can always build upon it rather than just wiping something down and then hoping it's good on the next go around. um and like you said, it's really cool to even see that engagement, especially with your people that you don't even know who's listening. They might either check in for 2 minutes, and I'll be like, I don't blame you, I won't check in for 2 minutes. But like, and then after that, or you have somebody who sticks all the way through, and then they're like asking about stuff, and then you're like, I made you feel that? That's crazy. I guess I could do something with these words and something.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like really cool. And yeah, I wanted to see like, so what is one go-to episode that you would want like people to check out, where you think like, all right, this is the go-to episode if you don't know anything.
I gotta pull it up. I don't know. I really think I had a strong first episode,
Mhm.
but I think I don't know. I think if you're I guess you don't have to be a working professional. I really think the top 5 work edition is a good episode because I be at work like, y'all are liars. Y'all are liars. Like when my boss is like, what's your bandwidth? You assign me my work. So you know if my plate is full or not. And if my plate is full, can I really tell you, no, girl, I'm not doing that? Like, I'm trying to get my check at the end of the day. Like, I can't. And I'm like, bring your whole self to work. I'm at this meeting in a bonnet. Do you want me to turn my camera on? You don't want that. You don't want that.
Yeah, like something about like Zoom and Teams of it's really funny because like there's certain points you're saying where I was just like, I've been so used in work mode where I was looking for like the little like like clapping emoji. And
Literally.
oh
But
man,
yeah.
yeah, that was gets that because man, yeah, it can be tough, but I really like one of your favorite episodes. I think I could encourage people to check out is that stick with it, because I don't know, just it's not only good it's a funny title, but actually there's some good tidbits. I was like driving, I was like, you know, yeah, there's some good takeaways here. And so
Yeah, and that's actually one of my not least favorite, but like one of the ones where I felt like I should not release this. Like I'm all over the place. Like I just couldn't. I felt like I wasn't articulating my point well enough. But I was like, it's Tuesday, so something has to go out. So you just never know. Like some of the ones that I really, really was like, oh my goodness, I love this. People are like, eh. And then some of the ones where I was like, oh no, they're like, I like this. So it's all about perspective. Just put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah. And speaking about your podcast, where can people find your podcast?
Oh, that's a great question. So you can follow me on Instagram at Georgie the Podcaster. It's also on Spotify or the Anchor app if you have that. But the link is always in my bio for both my personal Instagram and my Georgie the Podcaster Instagram.
Now I'm going to take, not, I guess take, but inspire one of the segments that you have and like put my own spin to it. But what's one song that you've been listening to this week? I'll call this segment airwaves because up in the airwaves. So I'll call this one's airwaves. So what's one song that you've been listening to that you would want people to check out, or if you're
Oh
putting
my
something
goodness.
on?
I would hate to have to be basic, but Essence is really, she's doing her thing this summer. Like every time I get in the car, I'm like, let me just put that on. But yeah, no, Essence by Wizkid and Thames, 10 out
Oh,
of 10.
I've been listening to a little bit of Thames too. Like it's funny because I
Yeah.
don't listen to a lot of Afro beats or even or anything, but there's this guy in Maryland or Merlin, I don't know, Maryland, Merlin, but his name is Manny Wells, and he had Thames on there, and I think it's like I forget Peace. The song's called Peace. Oh, it's so good because Thames comes in and you just hear her vocals. Oh, she has a strong voice, yo.
She does. I need to listen to more of her songs. I've only listened to Essence. I'm a fake fan. But I'm gonna listen to that.
That's a good build up. But I do appreciate you checking in and just like taking time out of your day in order to do this. And as always, this is Up in the Air podcast. My name is Benard. Ben, I don't even, whatever you know me
Whatever you know me.
as. And this is Georgie. And thank you for checking in. And I hope you guys have a good one. Oh, actually,
Bye.
I think it should have just plugged in. Yeah, that you can follow us Up in the Air podcast. This is still a work in progress. Up in the Air podcast, one on Instagram, and then we're on no, not anymore. Spotify, Apple, and Anchor as well. And so you can check those links out, and they'll be in the bio. All right, now I can stop.